Haven't quite timed it right. Hello and welcome to Corner Comics, your mostly weekly comic book reading club. My friends and I get together, we share a few issues with each other, then we talk about those issues. Gentlemen, how are you doing this week, and where can people find you on the interwebs?
Van Glorious. And you can find me.
Hold on, let me pull up
You can find me.
dictionary.com.
Yeah, right. That's all right. You, if you have some hip hop in you, you'll get it. You can find me at blacksuperherofan.com. You can find me at comiccreatorsofcolor.com. You can find me at walrus.org. That's WALLRUSS.org. You can also find me on Twitter at Walrus. That's at WALLRUSS. You can find me here and also on cornercomics.net. Van Glorious.
All right. I am, the God in me recognizes the God in you. That's how I'm doing. Namaste. Also, you can find me at Instagram or on Instagram at EM_MAN_YOU_EL. Also, you can find me at EmmanuelTheStory.com. And you can find me here.
Nice. So yes, we are Corner Comics. Cornercomics.net if you want to check out the show notes, some things that we write about that are comic related. You can email us, cornercomicsofficial@gmail.com. We still haven't received any emails, but if you shoot us one, we'll read it on the air and we'll talk about it. If you have any thoughts about the books,
Because you will be the one.
Yeah. If you have any thoughts about the books that we read, or if you have any suggestions for books that maybe we should pick up and check out, we'll go ahead and do that. So we've got 6 issues this week. I've got 2, Russ has got 2, Emmanuel's got 2. I'll start with mine. My first book this week is 7 Secrets, number 1. This is a book by Boom Studios, and I think hopefully you guys enjoyed it. My second book is Tales of Suspense, number 39. I picked this up. It was a reprint on the shelf this week, and I realized that I had never actually read the origin story of Iron Man and thought, why don't I read it and share it with everybody and see what they thought? Russ, your 2 books.
I brought 2 Marvel books today. I bought Web of Venom, Wraith, number 1, mainly because it's a character that I figure Emmanuel would like that will probably never survive. And because that's how he rolls. And I also picked Immortal Hulk, number 33, a fairly recent issue, came out this year.
Emmanuel?
Awesome. My first pick was a throwback. This was way back in the day. I didn't catch the exact year, but ElfQuest number 1. The very first issue of ElfQuest. My second issue, very current, the current run of Doctor Doom, issue number 7.
All right. So let's just jump into it. Let's get into these books. Let's do this. So 7 Secrets, issue number 1. I'm going to grab my physical copies here because I picked up issues 1 and 2. I'm super excited about this book. I saw an article that was written by the Blurred Girl, I think is what she goes by on Twitter. But she writes for...
Yeah, I follow her.
Yeah, she writes for Sci-Fi Wire. And she did an article about 7 Secrets. And I went to the shop. And I said, hey, do you have this book? And he goes, yes, but I only have a second printing of issue 1. I was like, damn, that's sold out and reprinted quick. So I was like, this has to be good. I'm going to check it out. 7 Secrets is the story of a group of monks or like a religious order that is tasked with keeping these 7 secrets. They are grouped. Yeah, they are grouped together in keepers and holders. They're not supposed to be intimate with one another, but what happens when they do become intimate and have a child? This is the beginning of that story. So what did you guys think?
I'll go if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So
I
The
don't mind.
graphics. The graphics were really nice. I appreciated the graphics. They didn't really stand out as super awesome, but they were great. They were very serviceable and a little bit above what I expected. So I definitely appreciate that. The story itself, I was entertained. It's read from or it's narrated from, I believe, the child's perspective. You never really see the child other than being an infant, but
Yeah,
this kind of narration was that.
I was gonna say that I think this is the second time that I've seen this. Saga is the other one where you have this
Yes,
second person omniscient perspective where it's being told from an unborn child.
exactly. This is kind of sort of similar in that they weren't supposed to go together, but this is less of like Romeo and Juliet and more like they were co-spies and they're not supposed to intermingle. They did. This was interesting. It was heartfelt, and there's a lot of mystery for a book about secrets. It serves right because I'm wondering what this secret is. Why is there a whole organization tasked with these seven secrets? Yeah, I did it right. Seven secrets. Um, I yeah, I want to read book two because this is enticing.
Russ?
Okay. Okay. So at first, I first looked at the cover. I was like, but I'll read it. Whatever. Right. It's not like I haven't presented some ass stuff. So I went through it, and uh, the art was decent. It just wasn't like compelling to me. Right. But over time, it got more so. And the comment about the narration, I think the narration is a very important part to this book. It would not stand as well as it does without it,
Yeah.
right? Because you got a lot of pictures and things happening, but the narration keeps you looking and thinking in the direction that they need you to think. So the narration is well done here in that respect because you don't go off on your own tangent because there's a lot of ways you could, based on the panels, you could just go here, think this or whatever, but it keeps you in that conversation. It was interesting that there was almost one whole panel of just like white with just a couple of little streaks of color in it that they would do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I enjoyed the story of it, and uh, uh, I tend to think of these things as what if this was a TV show or a movie. So there's a lot of action here, right? A lot of action sequences, a lot of running and jumping and flipping and fighting, pretty much throughout most of the book. And then they think about it, talk about it. Here's some emotion because they go emo. And then, then they, deal with the emo, and then they go back to fighting, and then how emo is everybody and how you can't be emo because emo is bad and all of that because it makes you not a good warrior, etc. And then back to the fighting, right? Uh, um, so by time we got to where the baby is born, I felt a little something about the child, right?
Yeah.
It helps that that child was narrating, right? But I felt a sort of way. I'm like, that's kind of a jacked up situation, you know. I might go back and murder my parents over this shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I would be as positive as it seemed like he was, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, you didn't put me first. What the heck, right? So, and then, of course, before I can get caught up in that, we go back to some action and some death, possibly some killing, some very violent ass killing, a lot of blood, some stabbing in all kind of places. So it got me interested enough that I will read the second book. So I have to say this is a buy.
Nice. Yeah, this is I think it's only going to be 5 issues, so it's not a huge commitment. Or at least there's only 5 issues slated for right now. So yeah, right now it's not a huge commitment. I could see this being a movie.
A live action series? You could go well ways with this because you could do a whole series because first of all, we don't even know what the 7 secrets are. And what about the other 6 secrets?
Yeah.
Right? And what about who, you know what I'm saying? You could do a mini series. You could do a 10-issue series that could tell this whole story fleshed out because we still don't know the story of the kid which we don't even get to see till the next book, right?
Yeah, he does show up.
So I think this can be broadened. Go ahead.
Yeah, he does show up in the next book, and you get to learn more about the child from his perspective, and he even grows up a little bit in the next book. I don't know that the secrets themselves matter. I kind of feel like each case is Marcellus Wallace's case. You know what I mean? From Pulp Fiction, right? Like it's just that item that they follow, and it's the whatever it is. It's the item that everybody wants or needs, or you know. So, but it's kind of interesting because the one panel does remind me of that scene at the end of Pulp Fiction. Because towards the beginning, the secret is stolen, and they open it, and it's just white. You don't get to see what it is. So,
Yeah, so this had all the right ingredients. It had plenty of action, plenty of blood, plenty of emotion, and things to think about. So it's worth the money in that you get all of that in one comic. So again, I say it's a buy. I don't know Manuel, what do you think?
I think it's a buy, simply because I'm really intrigued about the secret itself. Is it nothing? Is it an item? And then you also have the holder and the keeper. So what functions do they provide? So I have a bunch of questions. This is good.
And what does the kid become?
yeah. Yeah, the next issue addresses some of that. It's pretty interesting. I'll leave it to you guys to check out. All right, moving on. My second issue of the week is Tales of Suspense, number 39. Yes, number 39. This was reprinted this last week and put on the shelf, and it's the origin story of Iron Man. I'll let you guys give me your thoughts, and we can discuss a little bit.
Compare it to
I can go.
Okay.
Go ahead. So, this is the original Stan Lee cut, right? This is OG, all right? So, one thing I noticed is it's more mechanical than electronic. The Iron Man that we know is much more about software and electronics. This is a lot more mechanical and how things are put together, sort of well thought out physical things, how I'm going to use magnets to do this, and how I'm going to... The only technology part of it is that he used transistors to make things smaller, right? That was, miniaturizing a lot of things that were normally big, but it was very mechanical. Because I've read a lot of books since then, I did find some plot holes and some shortcuts that would not, like this would not fly right now as a book.
No.
All right, it just wouldn't. All right. But it is interesting to see the book that sort of started it. And remember, Iron Man before the movie was sort of a second tier guy anyway. Right?
Yeah.
He was not, he was not, the big five or the big. He was in the Avengers, but he was never, Robert Downey Jr. It was Robert Downey Jr. that sort of elevated him to. So Iron Man was always decent, and I would watch it. Read it back in the day, but I can't say that this is a book you have to buy because unless you are a collector or unless you really want to see the story that started it all. But I think it's worth a read easily for comparison. Like, this is the Iron Man, how he was imagined. And then now you have also the Iron Man that you know.
Right.
And comparing those two, obviously he hasn't aged in how many years? Because he looks exactly the same. You know what I'm saying? They draw the same suave goatee dude he's always been. But anyway, in that respect, I thought it was worth a read. Manuel?
I'm always hesitant to read these old comic books because some of the things that are way back in the day, it was fine for its time, but right now, during 2020, some things don't fly. I'm appreciative of the fact that the bad guy was an Asian guy, but then also the guy that sacrificed his life to that made Iron Man, he was Asian as well. So it's not just demonizing a whole people group. It's just this person just so happens to be Asian. He happens to be a tyrant, and
Right.
yeah, that was good. I really appreciated that. I'm comparing it to the
I
movie
could see
itself.
someone.
What's that?
Okay.
What were you saying?
I could see that there would be some. I could see there would be some groups that might find something that was borderline racist in it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think it was, but Anyway, please continue.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can always be upset about anything, especially nowadays. But this wasn't so blatant. This group of people are evil, and only the white man is the savior. This wasn't that. This actually had an elderly Asian guy sacrifice his life so that Iron Man could be Iron Man. So it's not demonizing one whole ethnicity. It's actually showing some humanity, and I appreciated that. Comparing it to the movie itself, it was interesting because when the movie came out, Robert Downey Jr., we still have, and to this day, animosity towards like the Middle East. So they were villainized in that, and
Yeah.
having arms dealing with them. But this was good to see the origin. I too have never read this before. Everything that Russ said, I want to echo. It wasn't very technologically advanced. It was just more this armor. Who can fight this armored man? But all in all, this still kind of holds up to be an origin and to be dated way back then. This is all right.
I liked what you touched on when you first started talking about how this it's hard to read old comics.
Hmm.
The way in which stories are told is very different in the modern era than it was compared to back then. Just
Right.
looking at the way that panels are constructed, right? Like older comics tend to have these very rigid structures to them. Newer comics tend to have a more fluid, less defined panel by panel, which I thought was kind of interesting and is always interesting to see because you get away with some stuff just having the rigid panels that you don't get away with in the current era. Like at the very end of this book, Iron Man's his battery is drained, and then literally 2 panels goes by, and his energy is recharged, and we have no idea why. Like it's never explained. It's just his battery's back. It's 2 panels later. There's no explanation needed. Despite how much text is actually in this 13 pages, So
Yeah, that's what I mean by shortcuts.
yeah,
There's a whole thing that you really need to explain, and we're no, whatever. That's what I mean by there. And I'm not saying this is a bad book. Certainly for the time, it's really good. But the shortcuts irk me because I want I want the story.
yeah. Give me a little hint in the art somewhere, or like one line that draws a conclusion, or you can draw a conclusion from. And this book just doesn't do that. It is really interesting. The mechanics of the suit itself too. Like there's a heavy reliance on the transistor, as if that one electrical component is going to be the basis for everything.
Okay, so I'm going to say this from someone who taught sort of the history of computers. When did transistors come out?
So
Do you remember?
mid 40s, late 40s.
Okay, so transistors, and this book probably came out,
Early 60s.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but it wasn't. So I could see that transistors were a big deal.
Yeah.
Now they're not.
No.
But I remember having a transistor radio,
Right.
which was like the biggest thing ever. Because I could just put it, I can play whatever and take it with me. You couldn't do that, right?
Yeah.
So to say that transistors are the new thing compared to nanotech, which is now probably the new thing, right? I think it sort of makes sense because when you look at the moonshot, right?
Right.
They wouldn't, if not for transistors, they would not have been able to go to the moon because you can't vacuum tube that shit. You know what I mean? So there's no way you go into the moon in a vacuum tube thing where they keep breaking out and busting, right?
Right.
Transistors made the first supercomputer possible, right?
Right.
Because prior to that, you had to have entire rooms where you could walk into the computer so you could fix all the basically light bulbs that kept going out. So I think transistors were a very big deal at the time. And while they may have invented prior to the book being written, the implementation was still ongoing.
Yeah.
So I think it sort of made sense that because, years after that, transistor radio for me as a kid was still a big deal,
Yeah.
right? And then, we would never have boom boxes if not for transistors, just you can at the street level. So I do think it's a big deal. It's just not a big deal to us because we haven't had a life where there weren't transistors. And then you go beyond transistors, you go microprocessors, right? Which have thousands, possibly millions of transistors on a single chip,
Right.
right? That is a major thing, right? And now all of a sudden you have calculators or computers in your hands and in your watch.
Yeah.
So I think transistors at the time. So I mark our advance electronically as vacuum tubes, transistors, microprocessors,
Yeah.
right? And then the next, I don't know what the next thing is. Is it solid state? I don't know.
Quantum computing.
But anyway,
possibly.
I think for that time, quantum computing, yeah. So quantum computing and nanotechnology, because it's not quite here yet.
Right.
Now that's the thing. But once we get that worked out, we're going to have something else, right?
Yeah.
So I think it fits for the time.
All right. Cool. Any final thoughts on Tales of Suspense?
Nope.
Cool. All right. Moving on, Russ, your first book.
My first book is Web of Venom, Wraith. Once again, I picked this because this character is probably going to never be seen again, and and that means Emmanuel's going to like it, right? And then I do like the whole Venom conversation. You made Venom way bigger than Spider-Man. The whole conversation of Venom is way bigger than Spider-Man, as you got an entire planet and a god and everything else. So I've been already following this conversation. I thought it has a good sci-fi bent to it, which would appeal to Matt. So that being said, what do you guys think?
Daniel?
I'll go.
Yeah.
Sure. So the lone soldier coming to a world where he used to know, but now he's so altered and transformed, and doing what's right, regardless of his path, regardless of like his destination wasn't to help out this elderly woman being assaulted, but he just went ahead and did it. I love this character. You're absolutely right. This character checked all the boxes, and he died at the end. So yes, I'm definitely on board with this character. If they reference him later on, the Wraith, I would be ecstatic because I'll take what I can get. I don't know why I love characters that are short-lived, but yeah, you know me well. This is definitely my type of guy. I didn't notice until midway through, really. I knew this was a Venom book, but I didn't really pay too much attention to his garb until midway through that is a Venom sombrero.
Symbiote.
Symbiote, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sombrero.
Symbiote. Well, not the whole the poncho.
Poncho, yeah.
I mean,
Poncho
okay, yeah.
is an actual symbiote. So I didn't really notice that until later when I saw him manifest the gun and how weird it was, how symbiotic it looked. But this was a really nice series. I'm not too interested in Eddie Brock, but I know of his story. I know of his son and his whole quest to do right and change his legacy or change the relationship he had with the Venom symbiote. So, all in all, I say this is a good book, a solid read.
So, going back to 2006, 2007 was Annihilation Conquest and the introduction of this character. And then sometime in 2012, you had Bendis doing his run on Guardians of the Galaxy, and he introduced the planet of the symbiotes and sort of explained a little bit about where these things came from. All that's kind of culminating in this book, which is a space fantasy western at its core. I really like this book. I like the character. I am so sad that he dies at the end, and I don't know how you have a book named after him, and he's just gone now. Um, yeah, I'm disappointed because like I want to follow this guy. Which I don't know. Maybe they can do other books like set prior to when all this happens or whatever. But yeah, that is disappointing. This would have been a cool series. Like this is kind of what the Mandalorian has done in the Star Wars universe, but in the Marvel cosmic world. And it would have just been really interesting to see him in that sort of role. So I'm really disappointed that this is like a one shot and it's just never gonna, um, never come to fruition as a series.
So is it a buy or a read?
I'm probably gonna go to the shop and see
Give
if
it to
he's
me straight.
I'm gonna go to the shop and see if he's still got this on the shelf so that I can pick it up and own it. It's a buy.
All right.
But yeah, as much as I liked it, I also hated it at the same time because I'm like, damn it, I want more of this. This is solid.
So the only thing you hated was the fact that he died.
Yeah. And I'm not as big a fan
Okay.
of Eddie Brock as some people. I personally really like
Yeah.
the Flash Thompson incarnation of Venom because he had
Yeah.
more
I
control
agree.
over the suit. It was more of a tool than it was a second personality, I guess. But it'll be interesting. I don't know. He kind of dematerializes, but as he infused Eddie Brock's suit, is he going to live with Eddie Brock as a third personality? The places they could take this, I think, are going to be interesting for sure. So this is a definite buy for me.
Okay. Any final words before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
Nope.
All right.
Okay. Next one is Immortal Hulk number 33. It is in the current run. It is not the latest book, but I liked it because it went through the Hulk's mindscape, and I found that quite interesting. And so, that being said, what do you guys think?
Manuel?
Sure. This was weird. This was weird for a Hulk book. I like weird. The different incarnations of Hulk, while they even had Joe Fixit, not in his Hulk form, but in the mental manifestation of Joe Fixit. That was great. I really, really appreciate the weird and oddness of this because let's just be honest. Bruce Banner, he's got to be broken inside to have this split personality and it was modeled after Jekyll, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So there's some split personality there. There's some weird manifestations of past childhood traumas in his mind. All this is kind of shown here, which I definitely appreciate. The psychology behind Robert or Bruce Banner, which I didn't know Bob, Robert, and Bruce that were the same. I knew Bob and Robert, but I didn't think Bruce was anywhere in there. But this was nice. I appreciate it for what it was, and then the twist at the end with the leader actually subverting Rick, like one of his dear closest friends. So this was nice. I appreciated the ride that this took me on. Very psychological, and also told a good cohesive story. And the visuals were good too. It's a bit more shady than I would have liked, but like the shading, the darkness is more emphasized than I would have suggested it would be. But it's nice.
So I'm torn on this book. The artwork is kind of weird and funky, but I guess it makes sense for the fact that Banner is insane in this book. It's sort of like it's a combination of Sandman and A Beautiful Mind, and if you threw that all together and made it a Hulk book, this is what you get. So I didn't mind the journey. I thought it was kind of an interesting trek through the mind of Banner, but I never really imagined Banner as being quite this unhinged, and so this is a different take than what I'm used to of Hulk. Even some of the other books that we've done, he's not quite this crazy, I guess. Um, but it was,
But I mean, he is schizophrenic, right?
yeah,
Isn't
yeah,
Banner schizophrenic?
yeah. He's got to
That's
be.
a big thing. Th- So I think it's a good take in that it really lays in and lets you know, hey, it's not just the Hulk is Banner as a kid. No, this is a being with great power that has multiple, like Legion, like the son of
Professor
Professor
X,
X.
yeah,
Yeah, right. Who's got all these different powers, but he's so freaking broken because each power is his own personality.
yeah,
Right.
Banner is broken like that, right? He's not fixable, right? I mean, the whole remember the guy with the green hair, the psychologist. They've been trying to fix him for decades. He's
Doc
not
Samson.
fixable. He's broken forever,
yeah,
right? Doc Samson, yeah, he's broken forever, and the depth of his brokenness is now laid bare for you. Uh, uh, it's like I refuse to believe it. Hulk is just a good person. He's misunderstood. No, Hulk is a crazy mofo low down around this town. He is jacked up from the crack up. There's no way he's going to get it together. There's no way he's going to be perfect. There's no way he's going to be right in the head. You just see him in calm moments, right? Which can change like the wind. And this sort of breaks that out for you and gives you, because the Immortal Hulk series is a creepier series, right?
yeah,
It's more horror based series. That's why you have this art sort of thing. Like when Hulk actually comes out of Banner's mouth, and you know, that
yeah,
one part of it, right? S right? That's a huge thing. So that's why I've been trying to get read book, because this is Hulk as a horror series, but also very well explained. That's sort of why I picked the book, is because remember we had an argument discussion how we think this was probably months ago. We talked about how Thor should be most powerful just because he's a god, and we just think automatically because
right,
he's a
right,
god he's more powerful. I think that there's a conversation here that we think Hulk at his core is a good person, and it's
yeah,
not.
yeah. I can see that argument for sure. Yeah, it's interesting.
Anyway, that's sort of why I brought it. Go ahead.
It's interesting to the writer that's on this. I don't think we've ever mentioned him before, but a lot of books that we've picked, he's been writing recently for Marvel. And then the one of the independent books that I did last week, We Only Find Them When They're Dead. That was him as well.
Yeah.
So this guy's
Who's
doing
that? Chip Zdarsky? Who is that?
no Al Ewing.
No, it's not Chip. Al Ewing. Okay.
Yeah.
Because Chip Zdarsky is my guy like that.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting that he's
So,
been showing up in a lot of books that we've been bringing to the table. I think the quote at the beginning of the book sort of solidifies the tone and gets to what you were talking about, where it says, "I would rather be a devil in alliance with truth than an angel in alliance with falsehood." What is the truth of Bruce Banner, right? So yeah, this is kind of a hard book to follow. I would say it's a read because I did find some things in it that I enjoyed. I don't know if I would buy it and continue buying it though. Continue following it.
I think it's sort of a gentle paradigm shift in what you think the Hulk is,
Yeah,
and that's not going to go down well with a lot of people because you just think the Hulk is really just misunderstood misanthrope,
right.
and what you have is and when you think about how heroes have tried to move him off planet, because with somebody that is that crazy, that schizophrenic, with that kind of power that can be set off so easily, is that something you should allow to continue? Don't we supposed to put people like that down?
I like this conversation because I have my own personal emotional attachment to Bruce Banner and the Hulk. The way he came about his powers was he was saving, I think Rick, he was saving somebody from an explosion, a gamma ray explosion. So that's his reaction, that's his reflex. So I've always attributed that to
Yes.
that's him at his core, that's his nature. But the Hulk is a whole different ball game. And Bruce Banner, just because you have one selfless action doesn't make you selfless. He could have been a murderer and did that. So it's an interesting conversation.
But when you go back and look and you see he was abused as a kid, his father is part of this whole conversation. He was broken to begin with. He was broken long before, but long before he ever went down to save Rick Jones and became the Hulk the first time. He was already broken. What happened is the gamma power elevated that. The gamma energy elevated his brokenness, and it is still breaking. Because since then, there have been more Hulks, right? More insanity, more infighting among actual Hulks. So it's like an explosion happened, and his broken inside became part of his outside. And sometimes he can pull it together, but as you can see, more and more, he cannot. He is an accident waiting. He is a nuclear weapon that cannot be controlled. So tell me, you can't fix him. What should we do? Like, say, comic books aside, we're in this universe. Let's say you're the god of this universe, but you can't fix him. What do you do with him? Do you put him down? Do you give him his own planet? What do you do?
Well, they did give him his own planet for a while, right?
Come on now. Yeah, but it turned out that it wasn't his own planet, right? Something happened and turned the thing off, his rocket off. Then nobody watched it. They just sent it towards somewhere, but something happened and hit that rocket and turned it off course, and he ended up going into the planet that became Planet Hulk. But he didn't get his own quiet, peaceful planet.
Yeah.
Right? So is that what we should do? Should we allow him to continue here?
Well, I would say a real world analog is the use of medication. We tend to do that to individuals that don't necessarily fit.
Yeah, yeah. Or basically a chemical lobotomy. That's pretty much what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
I know you don't want to see how resistant you are.
Or a person,
it's okay, yeah, let's lobotomize them.
Or a figure that actively says, "That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry." If you're always angry, and your anger can morph you into, I know we're talking about the MCU version versus the comic version, but still, same character, same core. I would say something has to be done. If you're always angry, and this is what happens when you get angry enough, something has to be done.
Right,
but it's
and
also
there's no way your only power is strength. Go ahead.
It's also a power that
You
he's
care about him. Is that what you're saying?
well, it's a power that he's able to harness. So there is something there that does control the range of emotion, even though it's a chaotic mess.
If he kills some people. Yeah, it's okay if people die because of the greater good. What you saying?
I mean, sometimes you gotta.
Tell me I'm missing it. Yeah. In other words, yeah. See, you don't want to say it. You make me say it.
You're the one bringing it up.
The Hulk gets mad, and Hulk is mad and people die. Let's just be real about it, right? Hulk is mad and people die. Somebody pissed Hulk off on purpose. Like they say, instead of saying, I want to start a nuclear weapon in the middle of Vegas, I'm going to get the Hulk mad in the middle of Vegas. Same thing, right? And I'm getting out, right? Vegas is gone. People are going to die all over, whatever, right? Until he calms down. And I'm going to make sure he does it because I'm going to piss him off enough, right? And he don't care about life and limb. Even he's just not going to care, right? He cares more about animals than human beings, right? Then if you listen to him, if you follow this book, he wants to see the world burn.
That's an interesting
he said
take.
It in this series, right? He doesn't care about humans. Humans they ain't gonna. What do humans do for him? Why should he care?
Right.
Right? He can't. He tried to be left alone. He tried to do good. No matter what, some human comes and messes it up.
Even though this is
right, they try to send him off another planet.
It's still hard for me to detach the television series version of him, like as Bruce Banner at the end of every episode, trying to get a ride. Like just that heartfelt, good guy. But I mean, it depends on how he's written. I think him at his core is a very tragic figure.
Yeah.
That's all Marvel characters.
Yeah, well,
the TV series he was more of a.
In the beginning.
He's more of a wanderer, unable to find a
Yeah.
place in society. I guess that's still
Okay,
a
and I
core
agree.
element of the character in this book. So yeah,
Yes. So he started out that way. But as every X-Men mutant will tell you, powers evolve, right? Everything evolves or devolves if you prefer the situation, right? He was just one Hulk at one time, right? And he just, when he got mad, he came back, right? He's worse now. They
yeah.
got 6 or 7 Hulks. They're not better. Some of them are even stronger than ever.
There's way more
And
than
the most
that. This-
childish one,
I had to go on. I
see?
had to go on Marvel Wikia, just because of the Dreamscape sequences where you've got all the different ones, and I was like, all right, let me take a
Mhm.
look and see how many Hulks there are. There's like 20. You know.
All right. So this whole David Banner thing, that's over. That ain't coming back. All right. There may have been back in the Hulk where we was invented. When did Hulk came out originally? 60s, something like that, or whatever.
Yeah.
Back then, that Hulk was that Hulk. Ain't no putting it's no putting the cat in the bag. So you gotta. So basically, you say, Matt, you say chemically lobotomize him. Emmanuel, what's your solution?
I have to. I have to say the same because if we sent them off, you're just gonna come back, obviously. So yeah, give me.
You know what I say? Shrink them down, put them in a microverse. Let them deal with it. Let them fight on the head of one atom. Shrink them down to the microverse. What, 20 years? When's the last time you look? Because even World War Hulk was at least 10 years ago in the comics, right? Maybe older.
Yeah.
Ain't no more lovable Hulk. That stuff is over. You got to kill him or you got to get him out of here. Chemical stuff only works temporarily. Remember, he's got gamma radiation. That'll burn that stuff out of him. So chemical stuff is not going to work with the Hulk. He heals.
Well,
So what else you got? You can't. You couldn't do that to Wolverine. You couldn't chemically do that to Wolverine. His healing factor would take over and basically make him right again.
so all right. So that was my real world analog solution. You could have somebody
Yeah.
like Professor Xavier compartmentalize some of the personalities to help him deal with each as necessary. Have somebody that's
Yeah,
a
nosy ass Professor Xavier. Yes, he could possibly do that. But Professor Xavier is not a brain psychologist. He didn't fix Phoenix, which he went crazy.
no.
That's not, he has the ability to shut down portions of your mind. But what if Hulk actually has 20 minds? Can he shut them all down? And can Hulk get more powerful in his mind if he gets angry for being shut down?
Well, I was thinking maybe isolate the core Bruce Banner and let him navigate the personalities or navigate each of the
But
personalities.
remember, we saw in this book the core Bruce Banner is actually this little kid.
Right.
He can't do it.
Okay.
So he's going to be, they're going to kick his ass. No, you don't know what's best for you. Think about if I'm a personality that came into existence, and it says it in this book, to protect him. Do you think I'm going to let him tell me what to do? Or am I going to do what I think is best?
Yeah, I guess
It's like a
that's-
parent,
Yeah.
right? You don't listen to the child. You listen, but you're still going to do what you think is best, right? You don't let the child lead you. But you can take their concerns into consideration.
It
Right.
kind of reminds me
And if
of
it's in there, he said, go ahead.
there's the Doom Patrol. If you guys are familiar with that, there's a character with multiple personalities as well, and those personalities
Yes.
are meant to protect the girl. the core personality. And they kind of take their cues from her in that they ask her, like, what do you want to be done? Now they go about, they implement it, they do the thing that she needs to be done because that's who she is at her core. So they do take their cues, but they execute it in a way to where the core doesn't have to experience the trauma and the pain associated with the implementation. If that makes sense.
But they also do what they want to do. And sometimes they don't do it the way she says it. Sometimes they do what they want to do. Sometimes they take it too far. Sometimes they hurt people. They do what they think. Now, they may have a mandate to save them, but you've seen a lot of her core personalities that go up and do some crazy foolishness, too. They may save her, but then they may hijack her body and have sex with a bunch of people, or they may do a whole bunch. There's a bunch of stuff that they do. You're thinking that these personalities are fully formed, intelligent beings. No, they're broken. They're shattered pieces of her.
Oh, yeah. But I would say,
and they're not going to listen.
My argument would be, yes, of course they have free will. They do what they do, but the core mandate is still to protect. It's still to make certain that this core is provided for, taken care of. But then
what if I say no? That's not it. The core personality is not what they're protecting. The core body, because they die if she dies. What if their only real motivation is they have to stay alive? Right? They can't exist outside of her. Right? I don't believe, because they end up doing stuff that the core personality does not want. Right? Often in that series, they do what they want to do. They have their own agenda, but they're trying to live. Right? Once they're dominant, they're trying to live. Right? And by trying to live, they're automatically protecting what's her name, but they're still trying to live the way they want to live. And they will keep doing it. It's not like they're like, okay, I've done it. My job is done. I'm going back in the bottle. No. They're trying to stay up as long as they can and hold it down. Right? And there are weak personalities, stronger personalities, but no, you don't listen to the kid personality and do what the kid says. That's not how it works. In any whatever, you don't. You really think that Xavier's gonna reach into the mind and tell these Hulks they have to listen to this kid? You think they're gonna listen?
No, not necessarily listen to the kid, but allow the core personality to make peace with the other personalities, at least. Because
they're not. Yeah, they're not really fighting each other. They're not peace. What do you mean peace? They don't actually. They work together. You notice how in this book, right? They were like, oh, hey, one Hulk talks to the other Hulk and say this is a problem, and they hold down the bad Hulk, right? They're not at war in there.
Okay.
They're fighting the negative personalities, if there are any. They do fight those, right? Because most Hulks want to have peace. But they're not.
There's still a dissonance.
The fact. Go ahead.
There's still a dissonance.
Yeah, but there's a dissonance in all of us. I don't think that's any different there, right? We're not all 100% good, right?
Yeah.
I know at best I'm chaotic good, and we can get into that when we get into the Dr. Doom book. But I think that you don't tell Hulk, listen to the boy. When Hulk says Hulk does what Hulk does.
Okay.
That's it. So I don't think that's going to work. They got to go. You think they're going to listen to Xavier? Okay, Xavier, we're going to do what you say. No, because Hulks don't listen to Xavier's. So not going to happen. So I think that, Hulk is going to make his own choice. So you got to teleport Hulk.
Somewhere
there was a time when they put him in the crossroad. Yeah.
All right.
Outside of normal reality. You got to look. You can't, in real life, if we have crazy people, we medicate them, or we kill them, or we lock them in a hole. Right? Isn't that what we do in America?
Yeah.
Lock them in a hole, meaning sub jail of some sort, right? We medicate them consistently to live out their life lobotomized. We physically lobotomize them. We kill them. We put them in a hole.
Or we
right?
ignore
because
them.
we can't fix.
And let them wander the streets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do that too. That's a lot of homeless are that.
Yeah.
Right? But we can't do it if they have that kind of power. all this technology and we still can't fix the brain?
If there was a series, and probably has already been written, but if there was a series where the Hulk was narrating and he described people kind of like in the bizarre way, like Xavier would be bald man or bald chair man, Spider-Man would be leap, like just I would love that.
Yeah.
Like a 5-issue series where it's just a day in the life.
They have that.
Oh, I gotta find it.
They have that. It's called Bizarro.
I'm saying like Bizarro like in that it's the Hulk.
But it's
Yeah,
like
he's
Marvel
narrating
Universe.
that way.
Just get it
Yeah.
out. Yeah, just get Bizarro. We like Bizarro, right? Especially with the Red Hood and the Outlaws right now. Bizarro is great, right? Got all the powers of Superman, all that strength, whatever, right? And he says bald man and all these other things, and me am not happy. All of that. That's great.
Yeah.
But I think if you want that fixed, the Hulk has evolved in Marvel Universe. He can't go back to that. Not unless you find
Or
a
She-Hulk.
way
Or
to
she.
split them off into many different Hulks. Can you fission them off so they can all actually be physically alive? Then that could work. And they did that once, where they fissioned off Bruce Banner. They did a whole run where they separated physically. Dr. Doom did it
Oh, all right. Okay.
at his request. He did some cloning parts and some magic and a whole bunch, and basically separated Bruce Banner from the Hulk, so they were two separate beings. And you know what? In the absence of the Hulk influence in that series, Banner became evil.
Was that the Gray Hulk?
No. This is after the Grey Hulk. There was
Okay.
an entire run where they were two separate people. I'm gonna try to find it for you. But
Yeah, we'll have
there's
to-
an entire run where he is trying to, where he actually is trying to capture the Hulk to bring him, merge him back with him.
It comes like a
Interesting.
mad
And the Hulk doesn't want
scientist.
any part of that. And the Hulk is chilling, fishing, staying away from everybody, right? Because he got no Banner to turn back into, right?
Right.
But Banner won't let him. So I don't think Banner is a good person. He did one good act in one comic. But is he saving people's lives more than he's killing them? No. He should probably, if he was a good person, he'd take his own life. He knows
That's
there's no
right.
fix. He'd take his own life, or he would teleport himself to a world where he didn't have to worry. Right? This is almost, he's smart enough, like almost Reed Richards level. He could do this for himself. If he was really a good person in his whole core, at his heart, he would do it differently. He's not a good person. And you want Xavier to make him listen to this.
Or Stephen.
Anyway, we spent too much.
Or Stephen Strange could transport him somewhere. Yeah.
Yes, into a dimension with no sentient beings.
Or Pym could,
Only
as you
animals.
said, shrink him down. Yeah.
A
Shrink
dimension
him
where
into the
everyone
microverse.
is super strong, where he doesn't have to be like a bull in a china
Yeah.
shop.
I think he'd probably be
There is
even,
a multiverse. I mean, why not?
He'd probably be even more dangerous at the quantum level, though. Just wreaking havoc.
But he would be, just put him on one atom. One atom, right? It could be an atom of garbage. Put him on one atom, let him sit on that world. Whatever he wreaks, that's one atom. It's inconsequential.
The atom.
Yeah. All right. We have spent a long time on the Immortal Hulk. We'll go ahead and move it on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Emmanuel, your first issue of the week.
All right, my first issue. At the beginning of this episode, I didn't exactly know what date this was, but I researched it. It's 1985. So this predates my existence, physical existence at least. Elf Quest, issue number 1. This is the introduction of Elf Quest. A little side note: the first time I read this, I came about it by accident. I was cleaning someone's house after they left and their apartment, and they just had an Elf Quest comic book. I had never heard of Elf Quest before. Back in the day, I was just purely Spider-Man and Superman, and this blew my mind. Like, there's other comic books out there, so this, I have a particular fondness for this comic. What did you guys think?
So,
Okay,
I'll go first if you don't mind. A couple of weeks ago,
I don't mind at all.
Russ, I think you posted a link for all of
Mm-hmm.
the original ElfQuest books. You can read every ElfQuest book prior to 2014 for free online. So just throwing that out
Yep.
there. I guess
Yeah, we'll put the link in the show notes.
yeah. The interesting thing about ElfQuest is the publication history. So it was independently published, then Marvel published it, then DC had it for a while, then Dark Horse had it for a while. I guess now it's back to being independent. This is the only series that I know of that has been published by every major publisher, um, which is really interesting. Um, Beginning on to the book itself as a number one, um, kind of interesting. I remember reading ElfQuest books, but I don't remember this specific story. So I don't know if they changed what got published when it moved from publisher to publisher. Uh, but yeah, this is kind of what I remember about ElfQuest. It's as Russ pointed out in the show notes. You know, Ralph Bakshi kind of has that vibe in the art to it. Um, it's fantasy. It's kind of interesting that the elves in this world are closer to the Santa Claus elves than traditional fantasy style that we would associate with like Tolkien or that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is the story of these elves and what happens when their homeland gets burnt by the humans and they have to escape, and then they meet up with the trolls, and that's kind of where the story ends. Um, I liked it. If I could find it in the bargain bin, I'd probably pick it up because I didn't know that Marvel had published this before now. Um, yeah, those are my thoughts. Russ?
Okay, I read a lot of ElfQuest back in the day. That's why I brought it up. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, that it was amazing that all of this is online for free on the ElfQuest website legally. Uh, that being said, the one thing that this book did for me that I didn't know, because I don't know which runs I've read, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, in what order. When you found an ElfQuest, see, nowadays you keep track of what runs and everything, but back then you just found an ElfQuest and you just read it as long as you had it. You don't know when an ElfQuest book will fall into your lap, or I find a few in a bargain bin, or that's why I like Comic Cons, because I would go into a bargain bin, I see like a series of ElfQuest books, like 3 or 4 issues, I just get them
Yeah.
automatically because I know it's going to be a good read, etc. Right? Uh, what I did not know is that what this book shows you is that they came from somewhere else to Earth, and because of what happened, without spoiling what's in the book, whatever they had before they came, they have lost, and it is lost to memory. So there is a history that comes before this that may never be published in an ElfQuest book, but this sort of brought that up. So I liked that part of it. Because I would just jump into an ElfQuest book and I know that, I don't know all the characters by names, but I know the builds and the looks and
Yeah.
their attitude. They're scrappy dudes, but they're short. You know what I mean? It's not like the Tolkien, like you said, who are sort of tall and thin and
Yeah.
have more magic. They may have some magic, but they're a lot more scrappier and smaller. They're like little humans. They're not stocky like what are they? Trolls? Not trolls.
Dwarves.
What is the guy in dwarfs? They're not stocky like dwarfs. They're regular human proportion, maybe a little bit bigger heads or whatever. But they act sort of human-ish, right? They're actually what I liked about ElfQuest is they were better humans than the humans. You know what I mean? Humans were pretty much evil, right? That's why I say all of this reminded me of that Ralph Bakshi movie, which, by the way, is available online somewhere. What was it called?
Is it Wizards?
Wizards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. They sort of remind me of that. Wizards is, you can find it. It came out in '77. Maybe I'll put a link in the show notes so people can take a look. But it reminded me a little bit of that and sort of that time. ElfQuest has a place in my heart for me because it sort of showed up. It's like that random uncle that shows up every once in a while. He's coming and you just hang out and you just really, it's all good and love and you learn something and you feel good and then you don't know when you're going to see him again. ElfQuest dropped in and out of my comic book life that way. So I have a fondness already. And you don't have to buy this, by the way, because it's all online.
Yeah.
And when you go online, again, we'll put a link in the show notes. Um, you don't have to see any of the Marvel or DC part. It's just the actual story without that extra stuff. I enjoyed this book. I think everyone should have a read at least one of the ElfQuest series. I think that you just should have to, whether you're a comic book fan, whether you're a sword sorcery fan, whether you just like elves and dwarves and orcs, etc. This is something everyone should read. That's my take.
Yeah, the one thing that stuck out for me, which I think was probably the reason that I picked up ElfQuest back in the day, was that they ride wolves. They're wolf riders. It's just a kind of a
Yep.
cool
I like that.
aesthetic, you know, and very different from, at least at the time, it was very different from a lot of other fantasy stuff that was out at the time. So, yeah, it was a cool pick. I didn't expect something like this. So it was a good throwback for sure.
75 cents back in the day.
Right?
Yeah,
I
but I
wish.
remember where comics were still only 35 cents. That's how old I am. And it said, Marvel said, still only 35 cents on the cover.
Right.
So I remember my $5 a week allowance, I could go to the comic shop and get like a stack of books that would take me all week to read. It was so amazing because I couldn't finish them in a week. And then next week there would be new comics, right? It was such a glorious time to be a comic fan because you got so much for your time. But now the buying power isn't there, right?
Ordering a
Like
dime and get you a high five.
if you wanted a right, if you were a kid and you wanted to get into the comic habit and you wanted to buy, say, 5 books a week, how much is that money? What, are they $4 or more?
Yeah, $4.
$5 or
yeah.
more?
Yeah.
Right? So now you're talking just for your comic habit is $20 a week. That's more than my water bill for sure. Right? And you get less pages now than you did before.
I think you get the same amount of pages. The way in which the stories are told are not the same. They're not quite as text heavy anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is like
I'll
21
have to
pages.
table that. But I think you got more for your time. I think I can run through a common Marvel book right now and be done really quick.
Yeah.
And be mad that I spent $4 for that, not even 5 minutes. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Even taking time to look at the art. Whereas in a book like this, when you throw up this ElfQuest, there's a lot here to look at. There's a lot of story squeezed into this book.
Right.
And maybe it's because it's text heavy. I don't know. But for the value of the book, you get a lot more for your money. That's my problem. If I can get through the book in 3 minutes, then it shouldn't be $5.
Well,
And
I think
grant people got to get paid for their work.
I think a good
ahead.
comparison is the Tales of Suspense. So most books today are 24 to 32 pages, I believe. The Tales of Suspense 38, 39, whatever it was, is 13 pages. But it's a full story in 13 pages, but it's like condensed. Yeah.
Yes. And that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
And so I think in that respect, comic books don't hold their same value. But those are my thoughts.
All
That's
right.
all I got.
All right, Manuel, your second and the last issue of the week.
My second issue is Marvel's Doctor Doom. This is issue number 7, a 2020
Greatest superhero of all time.
hero.
Period. Hands down. Yes.
Okay.
I didn't stutter. Greatest superhero of all time. Is Punisher a hero?
He's an anti-hero.
But hero.
Hero is
Right?
part of
he's
that
not
phrase.
he's not a villain. Yes. So Doctor Doom is the greatest superhero of all time. But please, go ahead and continue. Tell me a great one.
I brought
of
this.
his great-
I brought this for you specifically because I know your affinity for the Doom, the Doctor Doom, how his personality shines through. I'm not too familiar with the story of why he left. Perhaps you could enlighten me. But he has since come back to Latveria, and he's back ruling again with all the grace and vigor that Victor Von Doom has. What you guys think?
Riding a bear.
Riding a bear, yes.
All right, you want me to go first? Yeah.
I'll go
Okay.
first because I know you got a lot to say
go
on
ahead.
this. So,
Mm.
this is kind of an interesting book to jump into issue 7 with because I don't know all of what's going on. You do get the sense that there's a time paradox or something that's going on with the black hole and Blue Marvel, and towards the end, Doc Ock shows up.
Yeah, I'll break it down for you. No worries.
Okay. The other thing that kind of threw me for a loop was his mask. Why does his mask change, or why is he wearing a different mask in northern Latveria than the rest of Latveria? Which I didn't like the version of the mask they showed at the very beginning. I guess it kind of fits the northern woodsy snow covered.
There's a reason.
Okay.
And I'm going to explain it to you when you're ready. But I can tell you now, or I can wait till you finish.
All right. You jump in. You tell me the reasons for these things,
Right.
and then we'll
and then
talk
you come
about the
back
rest.
in.
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone should read this Doctor Doom run. This is issue number 7, but you should start at number 1. Okay. This is what happened. Reed Richards and Blue Marvel, a few other super geniuses, are trying to build some kind of black hole ultimate, bringing power to the world on the moon, right? Maybe keeping a black hole in stasis or whatever. Doom says that shit'll never work, all right? It won't. I've done the calculations. It's not going to work. It's not sustainable, right? So something happens, and it causes a kind of meltdown that is probably going to destroy the Earth, right? And Doctor Doom is framed for doing it.
Okay.
He's also there's a country nearby. What is her name? Silver Sable. You know what Silver Sable is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Simcaria. There's a country nearby. They've been trying to take over Latveria forever. So Doom is framed, and because he's framed on the world level, they come to Doom to take him in for causing the ultimate what would be destruction of Earth. And instead of fighting, Doom says, take me. Leave my country alone. But while he's gone, the other neighboring country basically takes over.
All right.
Latveria, right? Which is not good for Latveria. So, and you can see that there's someone is complicit in this book, and we talk about that, right? So Doom, this all happens in the first issue, right? Doom gets taken in, and they're doing everything. They're putting the whole book. They got Blue Marvel, basically Superman, staring him down, make sure he don't do nothing. You got Doctor Strange locking them down magically at the same time in the helicopter, right? They're doing everything they can. And Reed Richards is keeping an eye on the technology, holding him in case and everything, right? Because Doom is Doom is the Hulk. If you gets mad. Doom can get out in all kind of ways, right? And then you also have people that are ultimately trying to kill him because they assume he's ultimately going to return to Latveria. So there are various bounty hunters in the Marvel Universe after him, right? So they try to kill him while he's in that aircraft, right? And it messes up everybody else's holding him, and he sort of gets away. But he's lost magic, and he's lost and his all the technology. He's lost his whole armor, everything. He's just a dude, right? By the end of the first episode, he's just a dude, right? No powers, no hookups, nothing. And between now and this issue, he is murdered. He goes to hell, beats Mephisto. He does all these things to get back to here.
Okay.
right? So Doom fights everybody that's after him, evades everybody that's going after him. All the greatest heroes and villains are coming after him. The bounty is high. He's got no resources, right? And he still wins, right? Then they do kill him. He goes to hell, and Mephisto is like, "Hey, welcome back." He still wins, right? Then Immortus, not Immortus. Who's the guy that that they're talking about putting in?
Kang the
Is it
Conqueror.
Ant-Man? Yes. Kang, apparently Kang is related to him. Like
To-
by blood, right?
to-
Also related to Reed Richards as well.
Okay.
To Doctor Doom, possibly. So Kang shows up, and a bunch of times he was like, "Is it Kang? Are you here? Is this the time when I die? Are you here to witness it?" He says, "No, you don't die this time, Doom. But I am here to witness something," right? So he keeps showing up. And in the book right before this, him and Kang are like riding a train together, talking about the future and the world, everything else. It's a great like buddy villain type of thing because they both respect each other, right?
Yeah.
So all of these things happened prior to this issue. He had to get armor and everything from every way he could. So when he shows up on the bear, that's what he is able to cobble together from his journey. This is
Okay.
his first time back in Latveria since issue 1, right? And he literally went through hell to get there.
All right.
So now back to you. Did that answer enough of your questions?
Yeah. It did answer
Read
enough of the
this.
questions.
Read this series.
So
Doctor Doom is the greatest.
a couple of things that stood out. The artwork was not the best. I feel like that could have been a little better.
Salvador LaRocca, man, that's always good quality artwork.
So the one thing
He's
that's
done a lot of Iron Man. It's very clean.
the
Gosh,
one
go
thing
ahead.
the one thing that stuck out that bugged me was how tiny Doom's hands were. Did you guys notice
Okay.
this?
No, I didn't. I have to look back.
Scroll back through. There's a couple of
So
panels.
now you doing good. You're gonna do a Trump joke in here now.
Yeah, he's got like baby hands. He's got Trump
Let me
hands.
go back.
No, I just thought it was interesting. There's one panel where he straight
I
up
don't see
shoots
this
a guy.
response.
Well, he's got baby hands and
They
like
betrayed him.
I
yeah,
see that.
he's got baby hands where he's sitting
Okay.
next to the fireplace.
Mhm.
So,
Uh,
I see it.
but yeah, he
But,
straight up shoots the
I
guy in
like-
the back and just says, "Feed him to my bear." That's
Yeah.
that's some pretty
Well,
hardcore.
but there's a reason for well, before that, you skipped the part where he says you have how long? You have how many seconds to run?
What does he give him? 10 seconds.
He gives
or
him
5 seconds, something like that.
Yeah, he says, I'll give you a 2-minute run. Here's the proof that you betrayed me and caused all the problems that I have. I'll give you a 2-minute running start, right?
Yeah.
And he starts to run, and then Doom walks out, doom, 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 and he takes a rifle and he aims, and with one shot kills him from a distance,
Yeah.
right? And then goes back to his thing. and Doom makes everyone swear fealty to him over again. Even the guy
Yeah.
who can't leave his wheelchair has to fall out of his wheelchair to get on his knees to prove his loyalty.
Right.
This is Doom,
Yeah.
right? I'm not mad at none of this, right? And I think it's only fitting that you get fed to my bear. You betrayed me. You betrayed the people of Latveria. The fact that I don't strike you, because I want you to have some fear before you die.
Yeah. It was crazy too how he deals with the guy that at least this is what I assume, that there's a dude that has ascended to being like president or king or whatever. And then when Doom shows back up, he puts him in his place. And it's like,
Yes.
you know,
He's in the grave.
yeah,
Keep cutting.
throws him out of the tower of the castle.
Can you repeat that, please?
I said I do have a question about the kids and Doom's reaction. Maybe I have to read the series because his reaction was out of character for me, but we'll see.
Yeah, so the kids
I
show
think
up
Doom
and
actually cares about children. I think Doom cares about children. I don't see him ever doing children wrong or mean, ever in the history of movies, TV, anything. I
Yeah,
think
not that
Doom
he
knows.
was,
See, I think,
not that he didn't care, but he was just taken aback and was so surprised. That's what I'm
yeah.
coming.
Because Doom really thinks that everyone should look at the world how Doom looks at the world. All right? Doom doesn't blame children for them being children. He blames grown folks for doing stupid stuff that he doesn't like. And he will punish all grown folks who make those kind of bad decisions, right? Yeah, even to the point of murder. But he doesn't hurt children. He thinks it's beneath him. Doom is a good guy. Doom is a hero. He doesn't hurt children. And the children were so messed up that they would mutilate their own faces. That's shameful. That's not the way you behave as a ruler of humanity.
Well, yeah, but
Doom has been a god. Doom has saved the Marvel Universe time and time again.
no, I understand what Emmanuel's saying though. That last panel where he says no, and he's like tripping backwards.
Yeah,
I would expect Doom.
but he's been through hell.
True, yeah, I guess he's been through a lot in this book, but I would expect Doom to address the children and be like, "While it's understandable why you did this. Here, let me explain to you, whatever, like how to navigate the world after this, after what you've done."
But it's innocence lost. It's innocence lost. You can't. I can train you to become a greater human now, an adult, but your innocence is forever destroyed. And it's part of you now. You've carved it into yourself.
Right. Okay.
Right? That loss is you can't get that loss back. Right? If I could talk to them before they did that, I could put them on the right path. But once they did that, they're forever. It's like locked into a belief in a religion that you're going to change later. Right? Like if you're going to decide to be this kind of religion and I'm going to carve the whatever into my skin and I'm going to do all this stuff. And then later on you realize this ain't the way.
Yeah.
But look at me now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's an innocence lost thing because if it was just a conversation they witnessed murder, Doom could got him on the right path. Doom actually, if you look at the people other than that one stupid one he had to kill, they respect him.
Yeah,
right?
Most everybody was happy
They don't fear. They fear him also, but it's more respect than fear, right? This is the leader we need, right? If you look at how all these bad dictators and everyone gets elected in these, especially in third world countries, the strongest one is the one that wins, right? The strongest one gets the votes, or he makes it. It's in third world countries, it's the strongest leader that wins, not the most righteous.
Right.
It's the strongest, right? And you respect that strength. You be like, I can follow a dude that will, say I'm in the military, right? And I'm fighting for my country, right? I can follow a dude that is the leader of my country and says, fuck you, we ain't taking that shit, right? I'm sending my men in to kill you, right? I can follow a dude like that. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I can be like, yeah, I'm murdering on his behalf, right? But if you got a dude that's a leader and be like, I think this is bad behavior and we should try to, be better people about this and we should be more concerned, I might not be willing to kill in that dude's name. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
A strong leader, right? Because I want someone I feel whose strength of will is stronger than my own. This is one of the reasons I think why Democrats haven't always done well, because they don't come across that way.
Right.
Right? Republicans tend to, and this is generally speaking, come across as more, I don't care if you like it. This is what's best. This is what we're going to do. And I'm going to shoot you if you get out of my way. Even if you're in front of the church I want to stand in, you got to move. Forget your rights. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
All of that. So I think that a strong leader, historically, when you look at any history of any people, it's the strongest leader that leads, right? And so there is nobody. When you think of the kings in the Marvel Universe, you think of strong leaders. Black Panther is a strong leader. Submariner is a strong leader. He will murder people over his people. You know what I'm saying? He will go and fight on the front lines, right?
Yeah.
These are strong leaders. Black Panther will fight on the front lines. Doom will fight on the front lines. This is a king. So this is not out of character. This isn't Iron Man. right? Iron Man, ain't nobody following Iron Man. They think Iron Man is a dumbass, but they follow it because technology or whatever, right? But Doom can lead a nation. Remember when I said, who do you want to be king of the world? In the Marvel Universe, who do you pick?
Right.
You pick Submariner. You might pick Black Panther, but he's going to do too much peace. And bigots vote too.
Yeah.
So they're going to go with Doom. So anyway, sorry, that was my rant. Read this series. It shows why, like, not just the reason I think Doom is the greatest superhero of all time, but it gives you the reason book for book for book. There's only 7 issues out. You can still get them. They're probably still in the comic shops. It was delayed because of COVID. So the last issue was 3 or 4 months ago, maybe longer. But read this series. Please do. And if you like this, just jump back in. I'm sorry I took a long time. That was all I had to say on the subject, but feel free.
I was gonna say the first trade might even be out. I think it's the first 5 issues or 6 issues. So.
Yep, I'm probably going to mark it in my as read in Goodreads, so I can add another book to my collection.
There you go. So, all right, in the roundtable section of the show notes, we've got a question here. What comic format do you prefer to pay for? I like this question. I've commented on it before and mentioned, part of the reason I buy Marvel books is because they give me, not only do I get the physical copy, but I get that digital code that I can then plug in and read comics panel by panel on Comixology. So that would be my preferred method. But what are your guys' thoughts and preferred methods for comics to buy?
Emmanuel, what do you think?
Since I am somewhat of a vagabond and I travel quite a bit, I've lost or haven't kept track of a lot of comics that I've bought like 10, 20 years ago. So with that, I would just have the digital copy. I love the feel of the paper in my hand, but I feel like it's a loss because I'm not going to keep up with it physically like I would like to. So if my world travels, I would just go for a digital copy.
Okay.
Now, do you need to digitally own it, or will you stream it?
Oh, definitely digitally. That way I can access it whenever. Now, you can still access it whenever when you stream it, but that ownership, that proprietary feeling that you have, I love that.
Okay.
See, and I have a concern about that because it's like saying I have a game on Steam, right? I can download anytime. Steam still has it sitting on their servers. I don't have a copy that I can keep. Or Xbox, say someone steals my email, right?
Yeah.
Or hacks my email. All the games are on there, and I can't get them now. I don't have any proof. You know what I mean? I don't have any of those things. So you don't have that safety of having a physical copy. And what is the value? You can't trade digital copies. So why do you need to own them? Do you reread comic books that often?
Not that often, but somewhat infrequently. And just that feeling alone is worth that price for me.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
the digital conversation, I go back.
I'm listening.
I'll go back and read books. Like, I'll pull them up and be like, oh, yeah, what about this or that, So.
I'm more aligned with the streaming service because I can also read books that I didn't buy or that I missed.
Yeah.
Right? If I have, and I can pay when I want. It's like I can say I'm going to take a vacation, summer vacation, and I'm going to spend a month catching up on all my comics.
Right.
I can get Comixology or DC or whatever, and then I could just read all of that stuff, right? Like Bill Gates goes out and gets a whole bunch of books. He takes a month off to his retreat, and he reads all these books that he had listed to read, everything, right?
Yeah.
And then ultimately, like any book, I give my books away. There was a time when I had a mountain of comics, and they don't hold their value unless I bought them when they were still only 35 cents.
Right.
And I think that the idea of owning it is questionable. You own a digital copy, but you don't have it on your server. It's not in your house. You own something that they hold for you. I don't feel like that's ownership. I
Yeah.
feel like that is a long-term rental.
There, I mean, there
That
are
being said, I have over 1,000 games on Steam. Go ahead.
there are other ways to obtain digital books, though. Maybe not from the two major publishers, DC and Marvel, but like Humble does do the book bundles you can buy, and you get PDF,
Yes.
non-DRM. You know, you can share those PDFs with friends, and you own that file. If you store it, you know, on your own server, your own hard drive, or whatever, you have your own copy that you can access whenever you want. So there is that conversation as well, like the DRM free stuff.
It's shareable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's shareable that way. But if the digital copy is only, like, say you do Marvel's service. If you bought a book, let's say you bought a book because you do that, and then there's a digital online. Can you share that digital online with anyone else?
Well, yeah. I mean, you share my credentials, right? Here's my login for my account or whatever.
Yeah.
You may only
but
do
without
that.
actually giving your login, you can't.
No, yeah, and you may only do
Right,
that
I'm
with
sorry.
like very trusted people, you know. So
Exactly, which goes back to the streaming service conversation to me, is I can stop streaming for, say I'm doing something, working on a project or whatever, and I'm not buying any books, and then I do the streaming option, and I catch up on everything.
yeah,
I feel like the streaming service is the better way to go because you can't really be a digital collector in a way that you can share with anyone. That doesn't really exist anymore, right? Not yet,
yeah.
right? Like, here are all my digital books.
What's going on, guys? If you're watching this or hearing this, chances are you're watching the archive or you're listening to this on your favorite podcatcher, and you're probably wondering why the conversation just abruptly ended. We had some connection issues with Twitch, and the stream dropped out entirely. So while we were finishing up our conversation, I realized that we weren't actually broadcasting anymore, and we sort of just lost the end of the conversation. So unfortunately, you don't get to hear the tail end of that. But the good thing is there wasn't a whole lot more to the conversation. Basically just us talking about our preferred method of digital comics. But in any case, hopefully there will be no more technical difficulties next week, and we'll be able to record another full episode. But I appreciate you hanging out and listening and watching to the episode. And so here is a proper ending to the episode.